Rev up your engines! Okay, here's a beautiful Toyota Tundra. You've seen it before, but it's got the rotten frame, and Toyota still hasn't fixed it for the guy. Now, what's going on here? Now, you can see the frame is coming apart. A blind man can see this frame is coming apart, right? There's no arguing it. It wasn't like that when he bought it. He did buy it as a used vehicle, doesn't matter, an Audi dealer or something. But before he bought it, he took it to Inver Grove's Toyota to have them inspected. They did a full inspection. Now, Toyota instructed him to get the frame coated. Obviously, they knew they had problems, which he did. But as you can see, that didn't fix the problem. You can see it's rotting away. And here's the reason why. We can find it out by looking at the door. As we open the door, there's the VIN number. Alrighty, number 5. That means it was made in the United States. And right here, Indiana. And unfortunately, it's got that bad these days that you gotta figure everything out about a vehicle that you're gonna buy, it seems. Because since it was made in Indiana, the frame was not made by Toyota. The frame was made by a company called Dana. You've heard of Dana, rear ends, all kinds of stuff, right? Turns out Dana didn't build these frames right. And they rot away. Now, let me tell you something. If that would have had a J, let's say it was a 4Runner made in Japan, guess what? They don't rot. Those were frames made in Japan. Those were not American-made Dana frames. Auto parts manufacturer Dana Holding Corporation will pay $25 million to Toyota as settlement for frames that rusted out and had to be covered by warranty. So let's see. Toyota got $25 million from the people that they bought frames from. I mean, why didn't they make their own frames? Who knows? They make their own frames in Japan, right? But they refuse to replace the frame in this vehicle, which makes absolutely no sense. Now, I've seen all kinds of excuses thrown out there. Toyota said stuff like, well, we're only going to cover them after 15 years is up, we're not going to fix them anymore. But that turns out to be horse manure too. Toyota's just stonewalling them. He's going as high as he can go, and then people now just say, well, we already gave you an answer. No, we're not going to do anything about it. Which makes me wonder, Toyota got $25 million from the company that made the wrong frames, yet they're not replacing them. What, do they decide this is a profit for Toyota? Well, we'll take the $25 million, you know? Hey, they should, in good faith, replace this. I mean, look at this truck. It's a 2003 truck, so it's 21 years old. Look how the guy takes care of this thing. It looks like a brand new truck. Look at it. He takes immaculate care of this thing, right? And he loves the truck. He doesn't like the idea that the frame's falling apart. Now, he's also found a guy with a 2000 Tundra that in 2022 had the frame replaced. So this nonsense about there's a 15-year cutoff, that's a line of horse manure. You can see this thing is rotting away. I mean, before he bought it, he took a Toyota dealer and they told him it was fine, just go get the frame coated. But it rotted away anyways, because here's the problem. Obviously, somehow they didn't coat the frames correctly and they rot away like this, right? I mean, you look inside, the frames are full of holes so water can get out of them, and when they dip them in the bath of paint and take them out, the water comes out the drain holes, you know? You can get one of these things resealed, coated, whatever you wanted, but it isn't going on bare steel. That's the only way it works. And of course, know anything about rust, once it starts, guess what? It doesn't stop. The only way to fix rust is to cut out rotten steel, weld new steel in, and then seal it, right? Well, they can't get inside the frame, right? I had a sister-in-law, she had a Ford Pinto in Buffalo, New York. I was there for like 8-10 years, then I moved to Houston, Texas, right? And you think, Texas, great. Cars don't rust in Texas. Well, if you bought a car in Houston, Texas, like I did, yes, it doesn't rust. But take an already rusty car, in the case of this was a Pinto, it started to rust, right? When she brought it to Houston, it is so humid in Houston. When you wake up in the morning in Houston, you go outdoors, first thing in the morning, you start sweating, right? It's so humid. That Pinto rusted from the inside out. One day she opened the door and it fell off. So she put it back on and climbed on the other side and then gave the car away to charity after that. Obviously, Toyota had problems with these things, right? You never hear anybody except guys like me saying, well, you know, Toyota didn't make that frame. It was made by Dana, American corporation that went bankrupt, and then it came back, and then they had to settle a court and gave Toyota $25 million for the wrong frames, right? Toyota has spent billions of dollars last year advertising their vehicles, right? Yet they won't replace this guy's frame, which would be a really good advertisement, because if you look at it, if any company in the United States made a truck like this, 21 years later, it looked like this, you'd think they'd want to brag about it and say, we're so sorry. You know, we bought those crappy Dana frames, and I know we've replaced them for all these other people, but gee, I'm sorry, our guys made a big mistake, and they just overlooked you. But it isn't like this guy just gave one knock on the door and ran away. He's contacted numerous people in Toyota, and most of them are telling him to pound sand. And here's what he has discovered on his own, which is kind of even more disgusting. He got it coated like the Toyota dealer told him to when he paid to get it checked out before he bought it, right? And he says, as far as he's concerned, he sees them saying, well, you got it coated, so we're not going to replace it, right? Yet, if he hadn't have done anything, they'll replace the thing, because he's seen people who've never coated it, and they're even older than this. Now, Toyota in their ads tout that they're pro-veteran. Well, here he is, an Air Force veteran, and they act like he's trying to pull a fast one on him. I mean, come on now, look at this. If it was a rolling pile of junk, I could understand it, that had been rolled over, rotted through, going to the beach, everything torn apart. This truck looks like a brand new truck. You know, he takes care of his vehicles. And to have this happen to the frame of the vehicle, that's just plain disgusting. And now because of this rust, his local Toyota dealer said, well, we can't put it up on a 4-post lift. They're saying it's too dangerous because the frame's rotten. It's going to come apart, right? You got your $25 million from Dana, who made the crappy frames, right? But it is your fault for using that company making the frames, right? The buck stops at whoever makes the cars, right? It doesn't matter. Look at Ford Motor Company. All those new Broncos, they put V6 engines and they're eating the valves. Why? Because somebody in Ohio makes the valves for Ford. Well, it's Ford's fault, for one, not making their own valves for their own engines like they used to and having somebody else make them, and then picking a company that doesn't do a good job. You use the company, defective frames. You even got $25 million from Dana because they made the frames wrong and you won in court, yet you're not replacing this guy's frames at the same time that he's found people that had ones older than this fixed in the last 2 years when they were well over 15 years old. Because I've gotten this excuse from people. They say, oh, well, Toyota said, well, we had a class action suit, but the cutoff point is 15 years old. There's no cutoff on safety. They're saying they can't even pick this up on a 4-post lift at the Toyota dealer because it's unsafe. Of course, he's driving it down the road. What if it cracks while he's going down the road? Toyota, please, do this guy a favor and give him a frame. He bought this vehicle in good faith. He took it to a Toyota dealership to get it checked out before he bought it. He did everything that he needed to do, right? The guy went to the Toyota dealer and said, get it coated. He got it coated, and it's still coming apart. Wanted to fix a frame, you'd have to cut the steel off, weld new steel, and if you coat it, hey, you can't sand down the inside of this thing, right? It's sealed inside. There's just little holes. So if it's made wrong, Toyota, replace the thing. You've done it for a whole bunch of people. If he's the only guy on the planet that was doing this, you could say, okay, he's the only guy on the planet, but he takes care of it. He doesn't park it in salt water. He rinses it off all the time. It's a beautiful looking truck, but pretty soon it's going to be an unusable truck. The frame will get so bad it eventually will just crack. And it's getting that way on this side now, right? So Toyota, hey, you're not going to replace this guy's frame, which anybody can see has a problem. You know what happens to the ones that I work on here all the time that come from Japan? They don't have this problem. Because you had Japanese-made frames that were made right. This is why I tell people, sad but true, if you want to buy a Japanese car, if at all possible, get one made in Japan. The first VIN number in the United States will be J for Japan. But the point is, they sold a lot of these trucks in the United States, right? They started making all these Tundras in Indiana, then they went to San Antonio, Texas, right? And a lot of people love these trucks. They are really well-made trucks. But if you get a frame that rots and comes apart because you bought it from the wrong company who ended up paying you money in a suit because they made it wrong, and you won't fix this guy's frame, hey, from my own personal experience, 2014 on, I have yet to see one of these things that had rotted away, right? So they obviously figured out what went wrong. But this was wrong from the get-go. Truck like this, let's say it had another frame put on it. Now it's going to last forever. They said they'd rather keep fixing theirs because they do not like the new Tundra. That's got a V6 twin turbo. People just don't like them. They don't pull as well. Completely different riding experience, right? And it was supposed to be for better gas mileage. Guy brought me one. He's getting 19 miles a gallon on a highway, and his was a V6 twin turbo, and it was also a hybrid. All of that, and it only got 19 miles a gallon on a highway. So people get these V8 engines, they want them for a reason. And these were great trucks. The only real problem with this truck is the frame was made by Dana like crap. It wasn't made in Japan. It's rotting away. And you guys need to give this guy another frame for this truck. And I'm not going to stop making videos for this guy until you do. Now, hopefully someone in Japan for Toyota is watching this video, right? You realize American car dealerships are owned by Americans. They're independently operated. They're out to make as much money as they possibly can. They don't want to fix anything for free. What's in it for them? Nothing. But for Toyota Motor Company in Japan, you want to show that you're treating people right. So please, will you give this guy a frame? I see these things go 500,000 miles. If the frames don't rot on them, right? Step up to the plate and give the guy a new frame, will you? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.